Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India achieves landmark in tree plantation with Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam. 100 crore trees planted nationwide. In fresh violence, at least 18 killed, several injured in sectarian clashes in northwest Pakistan. 82 people killed in the past 3 days. In Baku, world reaches $300 billion climate finance deal at COP29. And in cricket, India tightens grip over Australia in the Perth test as lead swells to over 430 runs on the third day. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio on Sunday. Prime Minister Modi addressed the crucial role of youth in building Viksit Bharat or developed India, stressing that the energy, skills and commitment of young people are essential for the nation's growth. He also celebrated a major milestone of the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam campaign, which has successfully planted 100 crore trees in just 5 months. The campaign has turned into a global movement with citizens across the country participating in the environmental initiative.
मध्य प्रदेश के इंदौर में एक पेड़ मां के नाम अभियान के तहत पेड़ लगाने का रिकॉर्ड बना है। यहाँ 24 घंटे में 12 लाख से ज्यादा पेड़ लगाए गए। राजस्थान के जैसलमेर में इस अभियान के द्वारा एक अनोखा रिकॉर्ड बना। यहाँ महिलाओं की एक टीम ने 1 घंटे में 25,000 पेड़ लगाए। बिहार में जीविका सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप की महिलाओं ने 75 लाख पेड़ लगाने का अभियान चला रही है।
And PM Modi also noted that the 116th episode of the program coincided with the National Cadet Corps or the NCC Day. He emphasized the significance of the NCC in shaping the personality of students and urged young people to join in large numbers.
एनसीसी युवाओं में अनुशासन, नेतृत्व और सेवा की भावना पैदा करती है। आपने अपने आसपास देखा होगा, जब भी कहीं कोई आपदा होती है, चाहे बाढ़ की स्थिति हो, कहीं भूकंप आया हो, कोई हादसा हुआ हो, वहां मदद करने के लिए एनसीसी के कैडेट्स जरूर मौजूद हो जाते हैं। आज देश में एनसीसी को मजबूत करने के लिए लगातार काम हो रहा है। पहले एनसीसी में गर्ल्स कैडेट्स की संख्या करीब 25% के आसपास ही होती थी। अब एनसीसी में गर्ल्स कैडेट्स की संख्या करीब 40% हो गई है।
Bhutanese Prime Minister sharing top gaze in India on a 3-day visit. He'll be taking part in a program in Delhi on Monday and will depart on Tuesday. The Bhutanese Prime Minister visited India in March earlier this year on his first foreign trip since assuming office. The nations on Sunday agreed to a hard-fought COP29 deal in Baku to provide $300 billion in annual climate finance by 2035 to help the developing countries deal with the impacts of climate change, with rich countries leading the payments. The new goal is intended to replace the developed countries' previous commitment of providing $100 billion per year in climate finance to poorer nations by 2020. That goal was met 2 years late in 2022 and expires in 25. Countries also agreed on rules for a global market to buy and sell carbon credits that the proponents say could mobilize billions of more dollars into new projects to help fight global warming. From reforestation to deployment of clean energy technologies, COP29 President Mukhtar Babayev gavelled the deal into acceptance before any nation had a chance to speak.
I now resume the 11th meeting of the CMA. I invite parties to turn to agenda sub-items 11A, new collective quantified goal on climate finance. I hereby invite the CMA to adopt the draft decision contained in document CMA/2024 L.22.
The European Union hailed the deal as a new era in finance for poorer countries to fight global warming.
Last year I said that COP28 was the beginning of the end of fossil fuels. And what I would like to add now is that, in my view, COP29 will be remembered as the start of a new era for climate finance. And the European Union and its member states will continue to play a leading role. And we have worked hard with all of you to ensure that there is significantly more money on the table. We're tripling the 100 billion goal, and we feel it is ambitious, it is needed, it is realistic, and it is achievable.
With a central focus on climate finance, COP29 brought together nearly 200 countries in Baku and reached a breakthrough agreement. The deal reached at the UN climate talks in Azerbaijan ramps up the money that the wealthy historic emitters will provide to developing nations transition to cleaner energy and adapt to global warming. Here's a report.
Nations had struggled to reconcile long-standing divisions over how much rich nations most accountable for historic climate change should provide to poorer countries least responsible but most impacted by Earth's rapid warming. At points, the talks appeared on the brink of collapse, with developing nations storming out of meetings and threatening to walk away should rich nations not cough up more cash. After 2 exhausting weeks of chaotic bargaining and sleepless nights, nearly 200 nations packed through the contentious finance pact in the early hours in a sports stadium in Azerbaijan. After the adoption, India delivered a full-throated rejection of the abysmally poor dollar figure just agreed.
That this document is nothing more than an optical illusion. This, in our opinion, will not address the enormity of the challenge we all face. Therefore, we oppose the adoption of this document. We oppose the adoption of this document. India opposes the adoption of this document, and please take note and regard of what we have just said from the floor of this room.
Many developing countries had pushed for at least $500 billion, but developed nations under political and fiscal pressure had played down such expectations. The African group of negotiators said that the $300 billion climate finance deal is too little too late for the continent.
If we walk back home with 300 and we say that the developed countries are taking the lead, this is an insult to what the convention says. It also said that the developed countries will take the lead, and this lead is climate finance. That the developing country is saying that it's taking the lead with $300 billion till 2035 is a joke. And it's not something we should take lightly. I do not think it's something we should clap our hands and force us to take it. I do not think so. I think we should rethink it.
The US and EU have wanted newly wealthy emerging economies like China, the world's largest emitter, to chip in. The final deal encourages developing countries to make contributions on a voluntary basis, reflecting no change for China, which already provides climate finance on its own terms. This year's COP was the third in a row to be held in a fossil fuel producing country, with both the OPEC Secretary General and the President of host country, Azerbaijan, telling the summit that oil and gas resources were a gift from God. UN Climate Chief Simon Stiell acknowledged the deal was imperfect and said no country got everything they wanted.
No country got everything they wanted, and we leave Baku with a mountain of work to do. The many other issues we need to progress may not be headlines, but they are lifelines for billions of people. So this is no time for victory laps. We need to set our sights and redouble our efforts on the road to Beleng. Even so, we've shown the UN Paris Agreement is delivering, but governments still need to pick up the pace.
In the end, the summit failed to set steps for countries to build on last year's COP28 pledge to transition away from fossil fuels and triple renewable energy capacity this decade. Many negotiators saw this as a failure and a sign that fossil fuel interests were overpowering climate talks. Aarti Rana's report for DD India.
And in other climate news, the 10th meeting of the India-EU Energy Panel took place in Brussels. It focused on energy transition priorities of both sides and reviewed the achievements of the second phase of the India-EU Clean Energy and Climate Partnership 21-24. During the meeting, the two sides undertook and completed joint initiatives involving technical cooperation in 51 activities divided into 9 sectors. The two sides have also charted out the framework for green hydrogen cooperation, which includes cooperation on green hydrogen policies between India and the EU. At the meeting, a work plan was adopted for the third phase of the India-EU Clean Energy and Climate Partnership 25-28, which will focus on deeper cooperation in 5 priority areas. EU and its member states participated in the International Conference on Green Hydrogen 2024 in India, while India joined as an exclusive country partner of the European Hydrogen Week 2024. Now shifting focus to the United States. President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, has chosen Brooke Rollins, the president of the America First Policy Institute, to be his agriculture secretary. If confirmed by the Senate, which it will be because he has the numbers, Rollins would lead a 100,000-person agency with offices in every county in the country, whose remit includes farm and nutrition programs, forestry, home and farm lending, food safety, rural development, agricultural research, trade and more. As Agriculture Secretary, Rollins would advise the administration on how and whether to implement clean fuel tax credits for biofuels. The nominee would also guide next year's renegotiation of the US-Mexico-Canada trade deal. The Uruguayans go to polls on Sunday with the leftist alliance of celebrated ex-president Jose Pepe Mujica hoping to reclaim the country's top job 5 years after a right-wing victory driven by concerns over crime and taxes. Former teacher Yamandu Orsi of the leftist Frente Amplio will go head-to-head with ex-veterinarian Alvaro Delgado of the National Party, a member of the outgoing president Luis Lajal Pau's center-right Republican coalition. Orsi had garnered 43.9% of the October 27th first round of vote, short of the 50% cutoff to avoid a runoff, but ahead of the 26.7% of ballots cast for Delgado. The pair came out on top of a crowded field of 11 candidates seeking to replace Lajal Pau, who has a high approval rating but is barred constitutionally from seeking a second consecutive term. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to visit Italy to participate in the G7 outreach session. And a gunman shot dead 3 policemen injured in a shooting incident near the Israeli embassy in Jordan. And Yannick Sinner leads the defending champions Italy into the Davis Cup final.
Our environment is becoming increasingly unlivable and polluted. So we need to fix that, sure. But we also need to take steps to prevent these problems from happening in the first place.
This is our upgraded form of our effluent treatment plant. It's a primary plant that recycles and reuses water for relining purposes.
I think that renewable energy is a sector that can change the GDP of Ladakh. If you can generate power and sell it to other states, you can increase the income of Ladakh.
When we're looking at renewables investment, which clearly has been growing rapidly, and in 2022 met that from fossil fuel, and 2023 far exceeded it.
Our motto is that all the farmers should switch to millet farming and nutritious food should reach people.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Amritpal Singh. The Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be on an official visit to Italy from 24th to 26th of November. He will travel to Italy's Fiuggi to participate in the outreach session of the G7 Foreign Ministers meet, where India has been invited as a guest country. Jaishankar is also expected to meet his counterparts from Italy and other participating nations in the G7 related engagements and hold bilateral discussions. The External Affairs Minister will also inaugurate the new premises of the Embassy of India in Rome, apart from participating in the 10th edition of the Mediterranean Dialogue in Rome. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinkin departed for Italy on Saturday to attend the G7 meeting next week. G7 leaders last Saturday reiterated a pledge to keep imposing severe costs on Russia through sanctions, export controls and other measures, and vowed to support Ukraine as long as it takes. The State Department said Blinkin would discuss issues including conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine, Indo-Pacific security and the ongoing crisis in both Haiti and Sudan at the gathering in Italy. Updates on Russia now and the Russia-Ukraine conflict actually. Russia's air defense system intercepted 2 Ukrainian missiles and 27 drones over the Russian Kursk region on Sunday. Kursk region governor Alexei Smirnov urged the residents to stay away from the wreckage. Earlier, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said the Russian drone and missile attacks have damaged 321 Ukrainian port infrastructure facilities since July last year. He further added that 20 merchant ships belonging to other countries were also damaged. Ukraine is a major global wheat and corn grower and exported about 6 million tons of grain per month via the Black Sea. After the February 2022 attack, the Russians blockaded Ukraine's Black Sea ports, affecting the country's shipments.
Місяць 321 об'єкт інфраструктури наших портів був пошкоджений ударами російських ракет та іранських дронів. Більше 20 суден, звичайних цивільних суден, було також під ударом, було пошкоджено. І це ми говоримо про судна інших країн. Це не про українські судна.
On to West Asia now. Israeli government on Sunday said that an Israeli man who went missing in the United Arab Emirates has been found murdered, denouncing his death as an anti-Semitic terrorist act. The missing person was identified as V. Hogan, a representative in the UAE of Chabat. Hogan has been missing since Thursday afternoon. The Israeli Prime Minister's office in a statement said that the state of Israel will use all means at its disposal to bring the criminals responsible for his death to justice. Following the incident, Israel has advised its citizens abroad to avoid or its citizens actually, to avoid non-essential travel to the United Arab Emirates. Israel said it's investigating a claim by Hamas that a female hostage of its had been killed by Israeli operations in northern Gaza. The woman's identity was not revealed by Hamas, and it was not unclear how or when she is said to have died. The Israeli Defense Forces said that it currently was unable to verify or refute the claim, but that its representatives are in contact with the concerned woman's family. In other updates, a gunman was shot dead and 3 policemen were injured in a shooting incident near the Israeli embassy in Jordan, which ended while investigations are still ongoing. Jordanian police had earlier cordoned off an area near the heavily policed embassy after gunshots were heard. The area near the embassy, which maintains a significant security presence, is known as a focal point for protests against Israel. Pakistan. At least 18 people were killed, 30 others injured in fresh sectarian violence in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that's a northwestern province of Pakistan, on Saturday. In the past 3 days, at least 82 people have been killed, 156 more injured in the region. According to the Chief Secretary of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Nadeem Aslam Chaudhry, the violence erupted on Friday night when armed assailants attacked a village in the tribal Khurram district. The incident follows a week of heightened tensions, including attacks on transport convoys that claimed lives of dozens of civilians. Meanwhile, in Islamabad, security was tightened around the red zone as supporters of Imran Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf announced plans for a protest calling for his release. And let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. At least 7 people were killed and 33 injured in a road accident on a highway in northern Peru. The mishap involved 2 vehicles, one a bus filled with students and a van which collided and plunged off the road in the early morning. The police and firefighters carried out rescue and recovery operations. Hundreds of anti-government demonstrators took to the streets of Bogota in Colombia on Saturday to voice their discontent with the administration over leftist President Gustavo Petro. The march culminated at the Bolivar Square, where a crowd estimated at over 2,000 gathered near the Congress building, waving banners with messages like "No more corruption" and "Petro out." A massive fire swept through a densely populated slum in Philippines' capital Manila, engulfing over 1,000 homes in a raging inferno of orange flames and thick black smoke. There were no immediate reports of any casualties. On to sports now. Opener Yashasvi Jaiswal slammed a majestic ton against Australia as India amassed runs on the 3rd day of the Perth Test. Yashasvi notched up 161 runs before he was dismissed by Mitchell Marsh. This was Jaiswal's 4th ton in his 15th Test and 1st in Australia. Following Jaiswal's dismissal, the hosts took 2 more wickets in quick succession, but Virat Kohli's half-century and partnership with Washington Sundar extended India's lead to over 450 runs. It's 494 right now. In tennis, world number 1 Jannik Sinner defeated Alex de Minaur in straight sets to power holders Italy into the Davis Cup final with a 2-0 victory over Australia. Sinner, who has never lost against de Minaur in 9 matches, triumphed 6-3, 6-4 in Malaga. In the first singles, rubber Matteo Berrettini earned a 6-7, 6-3, 7-5 win over Australia's Thanasi Koki Nakis. Italy will meet Netherlands, who have reached the decider for the first time on Sunday. Earlier, the Dutch ousted Germans 2-0 to make the final for the first time in 104 years. Okay, let's now take you to Japan, where the gardens and streets of Hiroshima Prefecture have turned into yellow and orange as the Western Japanese prefecture is celebrating autumn season. From mid-November to early December, the trees turn vivid hues of red, orange and yellow. It is this combination of cool weather and striking sights that make fall a great season to travel to Japan. That's it then in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the codes that you see on your screen right now to download. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh from my entire team here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India Live.